I think Kyler Murray set Mac Jones's market for negotiating. I think Mac Jones will get $40 million a year when he becomes quarterback. We've talked about this, and you're like, well, if he's good, he won't get that much. But I think Kyler Murray set that market. And this week, obviously, the big talk was about the clause about him studying was put in his contract and released to the public. Here's Kyler Murray talking about his studying habits.
I can accomplish everything that I've accomplished in my career and not be a student of the game and not have that passion and not take this serious is almost, it's disrespectful, and it's almost a joke. You know, I'm honestly flattered that y'all think that at my size I can go out there and not prepare for the game and not take it serious. This game's too hard. To play the position that I play in this league, it's too hard.
You know, Mark, there's obviously the conversation has been, is there an element of race and that's why it's happened? Is there an element of maybe Kyler Murray isn't the most prepared quarterback or deserving of the money that he's getting based on some of his playing habits? I think there's a mesh of the two that are at play because when Deshaun Watson got his money, Patrick Mahomes at $500 million, Lamar Jackson's up for his money. You're literally going to talk about probably at the start of next season, 4 of your 5 top paid quarterbacks in the league are going to be black.
Okay.
And I think where this information about Kyler Murray came from, I think it was leaked from the team. I've had, where would the leak come from? And I believe it came from the team. It's not going to be from an agent because the agent is also the head coach's agent, right? So you're not going to, throw one client under the bus because you've still got the other client. So they're kind of a team. But I think ownership probably kind of bucking and knowing that, hey, someone's going to ask. We heard, and the clause has been taken out now, that Kyler Murray only got in 3 hours and 56 minutes of studying this week.
Why did they put that in the contract? Why did they put that in there, the Cardinals?
I think, I don't know if you've ever watched I'm not a big podcast person, but The Pivot is really good with Ryan Clark, and they had Jamarcus Russell on there.
Okay.
And, of course, the famous thing you're talking about where Jamarcus Russell was one time he was given blank DVDs or VHS tapes to watch film, and he said, yeah, he watched the film. But he later revealed that he knew they were blank, but he just told him that he watched it.
Wasn't that a Michael Vick thing? That happened to Michael Vick. I know that happened to Vick.
Yeah, well, I might have, but Jamarcus Russell, that is attached to him as well.
Okay, because there was the narrative around Michael Vick, and he's admitted it. He thought he was so athletic, he didn't need to put in the work studying film and doing that because he just figured he could run away from everybody if everything broke down. He's admitted that. So I think that's
this is the game now. You can't even get away with an ounce of that.
Oh, of course. Oh, not right now. No, this was 20 years ago when he was a unicorn. I'm just saying, why did the Cardinals put that in there? Shame on them. If Kyler Murray is a workaholic, why would you put that in there? That's an embarrassment.
I think because they really didn't want him. But when you look at the landscape of the league, and again, I said either you have a quarterback or you don't. And you can say, all right, they do have a quarterback in Kyler Murray. They do have one. And if you get rid of him, then who do you get and how many years does it take for you to find another one? Because if you just look at this last draft and even what's coming down the pike, nothing screams quarterbacks are coming. So it's almost kind of like you have to eat the liver on your plate if you really want to get to the dessert.
I agree with that. I just don't know why they put that clause in his contract without any type of reasoning.
Well, because it feeds the media. It feeds them, right?
Feeds them. What does that mean?
It feeds them, right? Because every week during a press conference or let's say there's a bad game, Kyler, did you get 4 hours of studying this week? And then you say, okay, well, if you know it's a clause in the contract and as a person in the media, you can go study to say, is he really getting this done? Now you may go to people, talk to people. Sources claim that Kyler Murray is really, not really getting the 4 hours in. It's more like 3 hours. So you feed that as red herring to the press for them to kind of constantly gobble up on because you're not going to win all the games. And all the losses are not going to be close, right? And so in those games where things don't look well or there's a pick here or a misread there, which sometimes you should just credit the defense, did you get all your study hours in this week?
I'm just wondering, does he not study? Was there a reason they put that in there? Because, they didn't put it in there to feed the press or whatever.
Well,
That's
I
what
think
they were
it's
thinking.
Because there was a quote from Kyler Murray that he had mentioned maybe about a year ago saying that, look, he doesn't spend days and days and days in the film room. And this is what Jamarcus Russell was also saying in the situation. Now, you might say what you want to say about Jamarcus Russell, but he was an absolute phenomenon in college. And what he was saying was that
he had a good arm. He was a friggin' lazy
he was a phenomenon in college. But what he was saying, and this is true, There are some quarterbacks who need more study time to understand the physicality of the game. They've got to slow it down in the room. And there are other players who have natural gifts that can get them out of holes. It's why we have this conversation about the real value to some people of Lamar Jackson, that, hey, the anonymous defensive coordinator made the comment saying that Lamar Jackson could win 12 MVPs, but he'll never win playoff. He'll never win you a Super Bowl. I kind of agree to that because, hey, during the course of a season, everybody's got to prepare for different points of where you are. But once you get to the playoffs, everything is locked down and solidified. It's like the NBA playing potentially 7 games in a row against the same person. That's like one NFL playoff game.
I never got the sense that Kyler Murray wasn't a hard worker. I think, he might be kind of a baby. He might be kind of sensitive to different things, different narratives or whatever. A hard worker, though? I mean, I'm just wondering, did the Cardinals have reason to put that type of language in the contract? If not, then they're idiots for doing that, and I would feel disrespected if I'm Kyler Murray. Absolutely.
I think Nick has the quote. Do we have it in sound, or you have the quote, Nick?
I found the quote from Pro Football Talk from last year. He said, from last year in 98-7, he said, I think I was blessed with the cognitive skills to just go out there and just see it before it happens. I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit there and kill myself watching film. I don't sit there 24 hours a day and break down this team and that team and watch every game because in my head I see so much.
Okay, so I don't blame the Cardinals as much for putting that clause in his contract, if that's what he said.
Because that's what he said to a press. I mean, that's.
Let's not forget, he hasn't won a thing, not a thing. So, got to win something.
But put it this way: has he won more since right before he was there? In the 3 years before he was there, have they improved, been the same, or worse?
Yes, he's been better. He's been
better, right? And so that's where they are now. I think it's one of those situations where, hey, yeah, he said it in an interview, but if you know that to not be true, and that's the only reason why you put it in there as evidence. That's like saying, hey, just because a rapper said this in a song doesn't necessarily mean that he did what it's in a song, and now we're going to take you to jail for that.
Was there a financial incentive in the contract for him to watch the 4 hours of film? Did he get more money or something?
Well, I think it probably voids some things. I don't know the specifics of the contract.
What did you make of Mahomes' comments?
In terms of like what some black quarterbacks have had to go through over the years.
Why is Murray and Jackson and him getting criticized?
Because of the money they make. I don't think people have an issue with a black quarterback. I think they have an issue with a black quarterback making a lot of money like that. I think if you say like Patrick Mahomes gets $500 million, Lamar Jackson is probably going to have a deal for $500 million. Deshaun Watson's got $250 million over like 7 years, something like that, 6 years. So
what criticism has Mahomes had other than his brother and wife are annoying?
Well, I don't think it's Mahomes is kind of like how can I best put this?
I just don't think he needed to bring race into this. I don't. If Murray said that, I understand.
But he can, though, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to happen directly to him. But if he sees it happening to other brethren in the league that they're going through, and he's the most successful one of it, there is kind of a kudos to saying, hey, look, just because it isn't happening to you and you're seeing it happening to someone else, you might be inclined to say, hey, I'm just going to shut up and get my money. But if you're willing to speak on behalf of those who aren't getting what you get, there's an admirable thing in that.
But KJ, Mahomes, okay, fine. He's sort of a leader. But Murray had the quote that Nick just read. This is a significant financial investment. I mean, jobs and livelihoods are at stake.
Right.
I don't blame them for having a little bit of some reservations about his ability to break down film and do that part of the job.
Then don't leak it. Then don't leak it.
Yeah, fine.
Right.
Don't leak
it.
Like
even with Zion Williamson with his weight clause in his contract, right? You know that as a franchise, but you also know that these people, these quarterbacks or Zion Williamson, operate in a kind of a position of control, right? If you don't have Kyler Murray, then who do you have? Like who do you get? Like who comes to replace at least what you've been able to do so far? That's the whole thing about the NFL. The NFL really only has about 16 quarterbacks, maybe at best. So if you know you have one of the 16, the last thing you want to do is wallow in the mire like the Jets or just think of some of these things. Like the Jets come to mind. Miami's going through it where you just consistently don't have a quarterback. And if you don't have a quarterback, you really don't have a team that has a chance to go all the way.
No, I would have given Kyler Murray the contract. You need a quarterback, like you said. What else is out there? He's definitely good enough. I think there is potential there, depending on what he's surrounded with and all of that. I just don't understand. I mean, I understand why
I think
they
it's
put
a
this
leak. Right.
Yeah, I don't know why they leaked it. There was no reason for that to ever be public. That should have been under wraps.
But again, that's the red herring, right? It's like, you know that it's been kind of a contentious relationship so far, but that person has control because he offers you a chance to win. Okay. Remember, DeAndre Hopkins is out for the first 6 games of the season.
Maybe the Cardinals were a little miffed that he was being such a pain about the car. He put out that weird quote. Remember that? His agent put out some weird quote about what his situation was. Maybe that was like, all right, fine, we'll give you the contract now, but we're putting this in because you said what you said, and I'm a little concerned.
Think about it. The head coach and your starting quarterback have the same agent. How weird is that? Like, if you're the organization, you feel like you don't have control. You may have more control over the coach, but you do the coach wrong or you do the quarterback wrong and they're intertwined. There may be a package deal and it's never really discussed like that. But that's what was discussed when they came in, right? Because Kyler Murray, wasn't Kyler Murray's offensive coordinator in college at one point? I think that was the case when he was at Oklahoma. So, like, okay, wait a minute. Like, these guys already have a relationship, and us as the ownership, well, we can't lash out at the coach because he's our coach. He's part of management. So we leak this potentially. That gets out. Now the press can run with it. They can run with it.
Kingsbury was at Texas Tech. I don't remember. But yeah, I hear you. I don't think
he played against Murray. He played against Murray.
Whatever.
Did
Murray transfer from Tech? I can't remember. But
Lincoln Riley said that Kyler Murray was like the hardest worker.
Yeah,
ever.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, if he's not that, I mean, so he said the quote, but you've been in the room with him every day. Is he doing the work? Whatever.
Right. But he said 24 hours. Now, if he said, I don't feel like I should be in there for 6 hours a day, then I'll be like, okay, maybe there's some work ethic questions. But when you're saying 24 hours a day, you're really talking in metaphor. In other words, he's not saying, I'm going to be gone for 3 days just studying film for one game. They just, they were like, okay, well, you got to do this 4 hours a week, which is super petty, right? That's super, like 30-something minutes a day.
It was
like,
not
super petty.
That was not how you get off on the right foot after signing a contract that's going to keep you in business together for a long time. By putting that in, having it get out, because the only way to get frustrated, the only place to turn to when you're frustrated is the Cardinals. I mean, it's their fault. So that's not a good start.
But now the Cardinals have control again. Right? Because now if Kyler Murray doesn't want to be there, you're not getting out, right? Because now he knows there's a distrust that he has with his organization. I think this is worse than anything that's happened between the two of them. Yeah. And now if he's unhappy and he wants to go, they'll be like, well, we're paying you all this money and we took the clause out. So now his unhappiness can't even factor into his next move. So well played, Cardinals, in a way. Like, you put it out there, retrieve it back, but the damage is already done. No one's going to forget it. This is not like, like strike that from the evidence. It can't be admissible in court. No, people are going to still say, after that loss, I wonder if Kyler Murray got any studying.
If this was a Celtics thing, we'd be all saying, well, nobody will ever come to the Celtics. See, this is why no free agents come here, because of the way they treat their players and they do this. Anyway. Sorry.
KJ and Dondero, we wrap up here next here on WEEI. Thank you so much for starting your Sunday with us.